Okay, by my watch, it's 8:30, so we'll start the workshop. Pat, roll call.
Ms. Anderson? Here. Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Floral?
Here.
Mr. Hardeman?
Here.
Mr. Horn?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Storr? Mr. Chairman, there are 6 board members present, therefore we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. First up, Bruce Horn, financial report.
Good morning. I'm going to sit here because I've got all of this stuff on my computer, so I'm going to go through the November and December financials. See if I can do this here. Here we go. So this is the November finance report. And we'll start with sewer. Revenue was $2,796,339, which was favorable to budget of $11,040. This was a good month. Expenses were $2,217,129, also favorable to budget by $18,813. Giving us a net surplus of $579,210, which was favorable to budget by $29,853. Cash on hand, it was capital of $561,385, and the operating cash was $1,269,058. POA and amenities, the gross profit, and that was revenue from and less cost of sales, $19,011,001, which was favorable to budget of $668,758. Our expenses were $17,542,640. Also favorable to budget by $309,252, giving us a net surplus of $1,468,361, also favorable to budget of $978,009. The funds insured are 99%, and we had good lot sales. 63 lots sold, which was compared to the prior year of 73 lots at the same time. That's pretty flat, pretty good. We did take back some lots, 145 lots this month, year to date, as compared to 174 last year. And the numbers will be posted on the website for just like the treasurer's report, so that'll be out there shortly. The December numbers, also good. There's a whole string of numbers, so don't anybody go to sleep while I'm reading these things, okay? Revenue was $3,035,852, also favorable to budget by $9,456. Expenses were $2,445,830, also, but this was unfavorable to budget, $9,480, leaving us a net surplus of $590,022, unfavorable to budget by $25. Our cash on hand for capital was $2,687,007, and our operating cash was $1,042,520. For December, the gross profit was $20,026,050, favorable to budget, again by $699,633. Expenses were higher, $19,206,429, which was unfavorable to budget by $120,441, still leaving us a net surplus of $812,791, also favorable to budget by $813,242. For year-to-date through December, was lots sold was 63, year-to-date was 79, prior year was 79, and we took back 145 year-to-date through December as compared to 234 last year. We're selling those lots at a good clip. These numbers will also be posted on the website when I give the after the treasurer's report tomorrow. That'll have some of these same numbers. And that's the financial report for November, December.
Any questions?
Bruce, I have one question, maybe Russ, it's more about, if you look on page 41 of the package, it's a reconciliation of the golf course equipment annual budget. And the item at the bottom, which is trade-in golf carts, are we sure that's not for 2024? Because in 2023, we did that on capital, and it typically showed up in the net of what we bought, what we traded in. This year, we're doing it in 2024, we're doing it as an operating expense, and we said that the golf carts we're keeping would go against the equipment money this year. So I'm curious if that 48.8 at the bottom is not really 2024.
And I am not positive either. I have to go back.
Okay, could you check that and let me know?
Yep.
Okay,
Sure
thanks.
can.
We should
Thank
try
you.
to have an answer on that before the board meeting tomorrow.
Yep. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Tom?
Greg, a procedural question first of all. This is the treasurer's report, so essentially we're asking questions of things like the budget, the capital accounts and so forth, I'm assuming, and questions related to the operating portion, POA and amenities, those expenses and so forth, those would go to Russ?
Well, let's ask your question and we'll just try to answer it. How's that?
What's the question?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a couple. So it starts off basically with the budget piece. And the budget piece, Bruce, a request, since this is a workshop meeting, perhaps you and the board during the session later on today could talk about last year's budget process and what's going to change, and then give us an update on that, some specifics of what's going to change next year. And let me kick that off with, okay, sure,
I need a little clarification as compared to what?
our process this year.
You mean 2023 for 2024?
2024.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And let me simply do a simple thing to kind of kick it off. You've heard me talk before about realistic budget versus break even. Back in last February, we talked about where we were going to end up. I think Bruce said we'll end up 15 to 20% within our numbers. I'm not so sure we made it, but so let me give you a quick example. I'm looking in the room to see if Jeff is here. He's not. Let's talk golf. And let's talk about our budget. It all starts with, I'm assuming, the revenue side. And let's talk about then the rounds of golf. When you go back and start looking at how we budget the rounds, and I have the numbers, I can give them to you. But you look at 2021 as an example, we finished with 148,032 equivalent rounds, as we call them. We took and we started the budget for 2022 at 141,000. So we're up here, all of a sudden we come down. And that trend has been continuing even into this. I haven't seen 2024 because we don't publish that, but I'm assuming it's the same thing. We actually ended up 2022 at 151,000 rounded off. We started the budget at 142.5 for 2023, okay? We always talk that as an example. You can see it in the notes for this month. Golf was ahead of revenue so much because we were rounds ahead of golf, or rounds ahead of budget. Have we budget at what I would call an appropriate level, we'd be a little bit closer, and our end of the year difference, overage if you will, in this case, or positive variance, might be different. So that's the first point. The second thing is maybe goes back, Greg, to my question about Russ and the operating side. So if you look at the notes again, and I'm picking on golf, but it could be a lot of other ones. We showed golf had a variance of 8,000 rounds ahead of budget in the notes. Look at the report, and you'll find it's more like 15,000. That's what the report says for December. I don't know who's looking at this stuff, but I think if the general manager would start in having some conversation now and looking at the operating side and actually giving us updates that he gathers from the experts and updates those operating costs, it would lead to better budgeting at the end of the year. And that's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on the treasurer's report? Okay, Bruce Evans.
Good morning. Good morning. Update on sewer extensions. This morning I'm going to be presenting a CAR for design and permitting of our next sewer extension, which is along St. George Drive, the east side of Westchester, along St. George Drive to Tawny Oak Circle, around Tawny Oak Circle and Fox Den Court. So that will be in a couple minutes. Lake Catherine Force Main update. The force main is done, the project is done, the pump station, all the punch list items are done, so that project is complete. There's still one item outstanding, and that's to move the odor control equipment that had been stationed at Catherine over to London Court. And I'm waiting on the vendor, Source Technology, who has the authority to transport this hazardous 50% hydrogen peroxide for a time and date to do that. So as soon as I get a time and date from Source Technologies, we'll move that equipment over there and hopefully abate even more of the odors along the London Court pump station. I'm not quite sure how the odors are. I'm sure Sue's about to tell me, but hopefully they've improved. I'm not sure. I can't imagine that they're as bad as they were eliminating all of this flow from our line along Meadowview and through Lake St. George. So the pump station's doing well, and that's where we stand. So I'll get that chemical moved over there. We'll fire that system up, and hopefully we'll see some more improvement over there. So I have a CAR for McGill Engineering out of Knoxville for $5,895 to do design and permitting work on a sewer extension along, once again, east of Westchester, St. George Drive to Tawny Oak Circle, around Tawny Oak Circle, and then down Fox Den Court. This is the first portion of the project. It's the next project that was identified as a sewer extension project, and the work will be performed in-house, and I'll come to the board with a CAR for the construction phase as soon as the permitting and design are done. Any questions?
Greg, Russ, the only question I have is who's now sending letters to the members that we're preparing an engineering request, and then the next step when we actually approve the project, we send a letter?
Yeah.
Who's doing that now?
We'll coordinate that with Pat for the time being.
Okay.
Well, I think, I talked to Jane Walker, I think she's probably doing those now. Do you know, Bruce?
I do not. In the past, Amy did it.
Yeah.
And I would assume, Jane is certainly capable of doing it, and I think that if somebody gave her instruction to do it, that Jane would be more than happy to do it. Not speaking for Jane, but Jane is certainly the one that in the past followed all of the availability
Well-
fees, who's prepaid, who hasn't prepaid, all of that good stuff.
Originally, when we started this process, she did those, because
She
I
did.
went over and signed the letters at that point.
She did do them, and so she would probably be the most appropriate person to pick up and continue doing them right, in the interim anyway.
Yeah, I just want to ensure that the members are
Yeah.
getting those letters because of the whole issue about somebody approaching them, knowing that we're going to put sewer in, buying their lot at C, when tomorrow becomes a B or an A, and that kind of thing. I just want to make sure we're communicating with the members, that's all.
Any other questions?
Bruce,
Yes, sir.
around 2019, we had a master sewer plan study done. If I remember roughly, it was supposed to be a $10 million expense between 2020 and 2030. And I don't remember the schedule of projects that were to be done. Could you kind of give us an update? Are we behind in getting those projects done? And could you give us some kind of projection? Is $10 million going to do it, or is it going to be $20 million now, or do you have any rough estimate?
Yeah, a lot of that $10 million, Nico, were wish list items at the treatment plant itself. So the treatment plant currently is permitted for 1.2 million gallons per day, designed for 2.1 million gallons per day, so we still have capacity at the treatment plant. The back end of that 10-year master plan has some projects scheduled for the treatment plant. Right now, we're concentrating on the first 5 major capital projects that were outlined in the 10-year master plan, and that was the Lake Catherine Force Main project first, and I'll be presenting a CAR to the board next month for re-engineering and re-permitting of the Oak Knoll Force Main project, which will take all the flow from the Oak Knoll pump station that now discharges to our Rebel Run pump station and redirects it down Catoosa, across Peavine, and to the plant. So we'll eliminate one of the pump stations. And so there were 5 major capital projects outlined in that plan other than the treatment plant. And as long as we follow those, we're gaining capacity, we're extending the life of the collection system, and allowing more development for Fairfield. So once again, the big ticket item, the big ticket items on the back end of that plan were wish list items at the treatment plant to improve the operation of the treatment plant. The treatment plant is in compliance and will remain in compliance whether those projects are completed or not. So those will be depending on the actual financial status of the sewer department.
I'd like a couple of comments.
Nico, if you're going to make comments, that's later on.
Well, this is a
Okay?
question.
Okay.
I was told recently by a very knowledgeable person that lived here before me that back in the early 2000s, there was a court order that said when the sewer plant is expanded, Wyndham has to pay 50% of the cost. Do you have any knowledge on that, or do you have any comments on that?
I have no knowledge of that whatsoever. The covenants and restrictions were adopted in '97, I believe, and outline all of that, and I've never seen any language to that effect, Nico.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? I think we're going to get an update.
Yeah, you're giving me an update. Okay. It's gotten so bad. 4 of my neighbors have joined us today to explain how bad it is. We think it's increased from an odor to what, a stench, to the point when I was taking my dog outside, we have to cover our faces. It is so bad. I don't know what's going on. But it's not me. And I know, Bruce, I know you know it wasn't just me. But 4 of my neighbors are here we're 4 houses in a row, and I don't know what else we can do. The urinal cake didn't work. So whatever this last thing that was done, I don't know how many thousands of dollars you spent. I'd ask for my money back, because it didn't do the trick. So, that's that. Any comments?
So Bruce, we're trying something else, correct?
Yes, the odor control equipment that was,
Come on up so everybody can hear you.
the odor control equipment, which consists of a bio product and 50% hydrogen peroxide injected into the force main that discharges right in front of Sue's house, is now being relocated to London Court. We just don't have the authority to transport 50% hydrogen peroxide, which is a corrosive chemical. Also, I'm waiting on Source Technologies to make arrangements to move that over to London Court. The force main from Catherine that used to discharge in front of Sue's house is now discharging onto Westchester. So that flow of 500 gallons a minute is now going elsewhere. And so that flow combined with the London Court force main was overcharging the 8-inch line through St. George. Once again, I have my guys drive down Meadowview on a regular basis as an odor to see if they recognize any of the odors. And I'm not denying that there's not odors there, Sue, but we don't notice anything.
It's hit or miss, it's not constant. If I could get somebody's cell phone number or something, we can call when it's going on. People walking their dogs, make comments about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And once again, I'm not disputing that it's there. I'll give you my cell phone number.
Okay.
And when you notice it, you call me and I'll come out personally. All right? Anything else?
All right. Sam?
The architectural control report for the end of 2023 is as follows. Miscellaneous approvals through, for all of 2023 is 1,918. In 2022, we have 1,692. New homes approved in 2023 was 119. In 2022, it was 124. New homes completed in 2023 is 119, and in 2022 it was 118. Jane is sending those letters.
Okay.
I texted her.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there any questions for me? I can give you Bruce's phone number if you'd like. That's all right.
Okay. Any questions for Sam? If not, we'll move into Kate. Not ready. Okay. We're going to move past Kate for a minute. Interim General Manager Report. Russ.
Good morning. Just a few updates for you today. The activity at the simulator has been very strong in this center. With the cold weather we've been having, a lot of members are coming down and enjoying that activity. The Chili Open, which was planned for this Saturday, has just been postponed due to the weather. We had about 9 inches of snow last week and then several inches of rain expected, so it'd be a little bit too wet to get that out there. This week it's going to happen on February the 3rd, and we already have about 96 signed up, so if you have not signed up and you're interested, please, you have time to reboot and come out in about a week. The Racket Center update is going to be provided by William after I'm finished. We had a Meet the Team event planned. Unfortunately, it got postponed with the weather, but we've got another one happening in early February, and those of you that were here last month, you might remember we are starting to do some introductory sessions for those members who purchased property in the last 2 years and did not have the opportunity to get oriented about the club. So we think this will be a productive session and better connect those that have not yet learned about Fairfield Glade. And then there's going to be another one in late February. So this is the first step. We've had some suggestions to maybe expand this in the future, but we're going to start with this, and hopefully it'll be well received. And since our last meeting, I've done a lot of collaboration with Amber Black, our Human Resource Director, as well as the senior management team, and working with them and then talking to the board about some goals and objectives for this coming year, the year that we're in. And those are now established at a high level. So we're pleased with that. We've got some individual goals that are going to be measurable, and then some other goals that are going to be team-related. So we think that'll result in better performance in the future. We're making progress on the part-time communications role. We're not quite ready to announce that yet, but we're getting close. So hopefully in February we'll have that rolling forward. And initially, some of the objectives, as we spoke about last time, were to do a better job on consistency of communications, the frequency, which is, they're way too frequent right now, and trying to measure that a little bit better, and having a gatekeeper. So stay tuned on that one, and you'll more to follow as we go forward. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Russ, is there someone in the group that's in charge of our website? And I'm referring specifically to who owns it in terms of keeping it up to date, all the sections? And then let me ask my second one, then I'll let you respond. And that is, our process for information requests, you put them in, goes through the general manager and a response. I'm curious, I know there's change, you're getting acclimated. What's the time frame that one could expect a response to that information request?
Website's a part of communications, and Pat, I know, is involved in that. Mary Jo's involved in that. We have other SMT leaders that help with that. Bob Urey, our IT specialist, is involved with that. If there's something specific that you have a question about, we can talk about that offline. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. As far as information requests, normally those are submitted, and then we try to get a timely response as to what may be provided, and if it may be provided, an estimate on the timeline. So if you've got a specific request, I'd be happy to speak to you about it afterwards.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Were you going to say something, Bruce? No. Okay. All right.
I can go.
Okay.
We have more coming in, but we can go ahead and get started.
This is cool.
Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, again, my name's Kate Self. I'm the Chief of Police here at Fairfield Glade Police Department. We're doing something a little bit new this year. Usually we do our internal department awards in-house during our awards banquet, but we're trying something new. We wanted to recognize our members and recognize our entities and partners in front of the board, so we appreciate the board's time and your time while we get through this. I want to apologize for my voice. I'm getting over the Tennessee crud, and I also want to apologize for our officers. So the majority of our recipients are night shift or mid shift, so they look like zombies. They just haven't received their coffee IV yet, so bear with them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with our Community Partner Award. Unfortunately, they're unable to be here, but our Community Partner Award goes to a partner, an entity or agency or a person outside of Fairfield Glade that assists our department tremendously in many different ways. This year was going towards APS, which is Adult Protective Services. Now that we're all out and about, getting on the road again, they're catching up on their caseload and unfortunately couldn't be here. Our next award is someone that we choose, a person or a group of members of Fairfield Glade that helps us out or contribute something significantly to us in this past year. So this agency or this division of Fairfield helps us out every day, whether it's just being out on the roadway, making sure that they're clear, they're safe. when there's inclement weather or weather disasters, they're the first ones that we call to ensure that us as first responders and essential personnel can get to our residents safely, and also our motorists can travel safely. This past week goes to show how much we rely on them, but again, we rely on them all the time, and we could not do our job without them. So our supporting team member of the year award goes to the Road and Bridges of Fairfield Glade, which most of them are standing over here. Tim, I'm gonna call you out. Do you want to receive their award? Again, these gentlemen are behind the scenes, and you really don't know what goes on and what the work that they put into it. And I know from this past week, I know they barely got any sleep. And this isn't just anytime that we have inclement weather, whether it's taking down trees, moving trees, making sure that we can get medical personnel or even medicine to our residents during inclement weather, these guys are our go-to, so they deserve all the recognition more than we deserve. So please, again, give them another round of applause. Thank you, guys. Our next award is our Auxiliary Officer of the Year. Unfortunately, he cannot be here today, but that award went to Bob Henderson, and he gave us 312 volunteer hours this past year. Our next award is the Humanitarian Award. We don't give this out every year. This is something that we try to award our officers if something significant happens in the past year. Our officers are always doing life-saving measures, but this incident in particular kind of touched our hearts. This past Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving and Christmas, we had a group of officers who were contacted or approached by a underprivileged family that had a language barrier, who were not residents or members of Fairfield Glade. Throughout their contact and their investigation, they realized that this family was in need, and these officers spent hundreds of dollars of their own money to ensure that family had basic needs of food and other needs for their home during that holiday time. So this humanitarian award goes to that whole squad that night. Officer Beatty cannot be with us. We also have Officer Brendel, who did not make it this morning. We have Detective Pena, and then we also have Corporal Wyatt. So please come forward. Blinded. Can we do pictures afterwards so we can kind of get this going? Perfect. Is that okay? Okay. We also like to, thank you guys. We also like to recognize our officers if they go above and beyond throughout the year. We have 2 Chiefs Awards. One of them is for Corporal Ben Griffin, who couldn't be with us due to sickness. We wanted to recognize him for his dedication to the Tennessee Highway Safety Office and our traffic enforcement efforts. He's kind of taken over some of my role and also assisting Captain Cheryl tremendously through this past year, so we want to dedicate or recognize him for that. Our other Chiefs Award goes to a younger officer who was in the running for Officer of the Year. He was one of those who was kind of underrated, and he has this past year shocked us, not only in his stats, but his drive and dedication and his service, not only to the field of law enforcement, but to our community. Just a quick few stats. He had 11 arrests. He had the highest percentage of reports written or documented, and he even leads the Teach Us So hours. So we would like to recognize Officer Van Trump for service of excellence. He smiles, he's just tired, I don't know. Okay, we're gonna do pictures later. Our next award goes to another officer who, if you look at his stats, was in the running for Officer of the Year award. When I give you his stats, please bear in mind that the first 3 months, from January to all the way through March, he was in the Basic Law Enforcement Academy. So these stats are astounding based off of he got out of the academy and then he was still in field training and he still produced the stats that he did. He is one of the most amazing officers that I've been a privilege to work with. I cannot wait to see where his career takes him. He definitely motivates our senior officers and our new officers that are coming in. He had over 20 arrests, or 19 arrests, and 75% of his arrests were during lawful traffic investigations. He leads our department. I'm so sorry. He leads our department in DUI arrests. He leads our department in speed infractions, distracted driving infractions, everything except for seatbelts, which one officer edged him out just a little bit. Again, he is an astounding officer, but he leads us in our traffic enforcement. So our traffic enforcement officer of the year goes to Officer Logan Janot. Is he still in the parking lot? Oh, there he is. Hey, there you are. And he's a soon-to-be daddy. There you go. So we have one more award. So this is the Officer Year Award. We also call it the Jack Cole Award. So Jack Cole was the first chief when Fairfield started the security department. Again, we had some great, astounding officers that everyone deserves this award. But we came down to it. We looked at stats. We also looked at the contributions of this officer. He had over 20 arrests, and the majority of his arrests resulted from proactive drug interdiction cases. So that's taking drugs off of our street. He had over close to 200 reports that he was responsible for and investigating and leading. Throughout the past year, he became our TASER instructor. He became our active threat instructor. He became an FTO. He has done so much in such a little time for our department that it's astounding. We're very lucky to have him. And just to comment on that, he joined our department in the very beginning of January. He's a new officer for us, but he comes with a vast amount of experience from the county and other law enforcement agencies. So again, we would like to recognize Corporal Jamie Wyatt for Officer of the Year. So again, thank you to the board and thank you to you for giving us that time. It's really nice that we can recognize our officers and our community partners in front of you so you can see the dedication and service that they provide you. So again, thank you for your time.
Well, before you leave, Kate, I mean, some people don't really understand, and I really didn't until I got on the board, the extent of the work that this department does. And that's under your leadership, Kate, and we really appreciate all the work you put in along with your officers. You know, we think we're sometimes a little bit of a sleepy little community that not much happens here. But for the year-end 2023, what's reported to the board is there were almost 31,000 activities or incidents that this group handled. That's about 2,500 a month on average. And how big is your staff?
So we're budgeted for 17 sworn officers, and then we have 2 full-time civilian and 1 part-time civilian.
So you do the division, and you'll find that that's a very active group. The other thing is that I continue to hear stories of people that come up to me and talk about the times that the officers have gone and gotten medicine for somebody that couldn't get out, or help them in some way that's not anywhere near their job description. And believe me, from the board's perspective, we really respect what you do, and we thank all of you. And Kate, we thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Okay? Well,
Oh, wait, I didn't know where I was on the agenda.
well, we're going to let William go first, because we want to make sure that you hear him, and then we'll get back to you. William. This is our ongoing thing where we're bringing one of the SMTs in a month, and today you're going to hear from the racket sports group.
See if this works. All right. Good morning. Just want to be updating the board on some racket sports operations, discussing the growth of pickleball and tennis, the trends nationwide. How is that affecting our facility utilization going forward? What are we doing to help with this continued growth? Some changes in 2024 that we're implementing at the Racket Center, including some new events. And then our vision and outlook for the Racket Center as well. And then just some upcoming staff developments. So the first slide here we're going to look at is the trends in pickleball nationwide. So if you look at the chart, you can definitely see the growth of pickleball is continuing on that hockey stick curve. It's not going down, it's definitely continuing to go up. And if you look at the highlighted point here, in 2023, pickleball was once again America's fastest growing sport for the 3rd year in a row. We definitely foresee that happening also this year. We don't see it diminishing or going down. Everywhere you look, especially on TV now, I'm sure you've seen some commercials featuring pickleball. There also was a reality show this past year starring Stephen Colbert in pickleball. So even though corporations, businesses are getting on the pickleball train, so at the Racket Center we don't see it going down anytime soon. Well, what does that mean for tennis? Well, tennis is also growing. It's not going away. It's still the #1 racket sport in America. And last year, in 2022, there was an extra 1 million people that participated in tennis nationwide. And this, if you added since COVID in 2020, we've seen an increase of 33% of new players in the tennis field. So tennis is also hanging in there. It's growing strong, one in part to the COVID boom where socially distant activities were the norm, were the biggest fad. Racket sports and golf really fall into that. And if you look at a little highlighted point there, at the Racket Center, we've seen a growth in our youth participation with our middle and high school programs. And believe it or not, a lot of those new players are Fairfield Glade residents. How about that? So that's good to see, getting our youth out there. Well, what are these trends doing for the Racket Center utilization? Well, if we look, since 2019, racket sports has seen a tremendous increase in our facility utilization in both tennis and pickleball. So if you look down at the chart there, you've seen that tennis has increased by 30% over this time frame, and pickleball has obviously boomed. It's up 377% during that time frame. And one contributing factor to that pickleball growth is we've added the lines to our indoor courts there, so that gives us another facility that our members are playing on. That's helped increase our utilization. So what are we doing at the Racket Center programming-wise to hopefully continue this utilization? Well, one big star is our special events that we offer at the Racket Center. We've definitely tried to have high service, high customer-oriented events that our members are enjoying coming to and participating in, not just our members, but outside guests as well. One shining star has been our Fairfield Glade Pickleball Classic. That is held in July every year. In 2017, we had 100 players. This past year, we had 250 players. So if you were a part of that or came over and watched, it was rocking and rolling over there at the Racket Center. It's definitely a fun weekend for our members and our guests to enjoy. One thing we've also done is changed our open play structure and our drop-ins to definitely try to cater to those members that don't have set groups. We want to make sure we offer those open plays where if you don't have anyone to play with, you can sign up and play with a group of people. We've made sure we put those down at the times that those players are available. And also with those open plays, we've tweaked how the apprentice class kind of flows into those. We've made sure the apprentice players following their class, they have a place to play. We didn't really have that the previous 4 or 5 years. We've changed that the past couple of years. We've had some members kind of volunteering, kind of help after the class, kind of keep them playing, encourage them to continue in the sport that they're learning. And that's seen our significant growth in the apprentice participation as well. And it's no secret, pickleball and tennis are both gaining in popularity, and this is true with our apprentice classes as well. We currently have a waiting list for the pickleball class. We worked our way through it last year. Now we got a waiting list again because right now we can't have any classes due to the shortage of court space. And then our tennis apprentice class are also growing as well with participation. Dylan always has a decent amount in those classes. So what changes are we making in 2024 to hopefully continue this growth curve for our utilization? Well, the first change we've made is our annual pass is now good at the center during select days and months of the year there. So that was a perk that the members have wanted for a while. We were able to make that happen this year. What this does, it just kind of helps offset some of the demand from the racket center and fill some unused court time at the center. One thing we kind of tested this year was our annual pass holders can self-check in at the racket center. So what does that mean? When you have an annual pass, you can come in and just self-check in yourself at our kiosk there. You don't have to go to the front desk. You just check in and immediately go down to the courts. And what does this do for our other pay-as-you-play members? Well, it gives them a better customer experience with our front desk staff. They don't have to wait in line. They can immediately go up there and take care of the business they need to do that day, whether it's pay for their play, whether it's ask a question, whether it's reserve a court. They're not having to wait as long in line to take care of that. Some new events we're doing this year. We're going to add a tag team tennis event. That's not a wrestling match. That's just where you play a set number of games and then you tag in the next level to kind of finish out the round. So it keeps all the members engaged throughout it. We're kind of piggybacking off a pickleball tag team event we've done the past couple of years. That has been really popular. So I hope that the tennis one will be just as popular there. A couple of new events we're going to try are going to be basically short court versions of tennis, and that's the pop tennis and spec tennis. These are played, the spec tennis is played on a pickleball court, the pop tennis is played on a shorter tennis court there. And they're a good blend of both pickleball and tennis with the strokes and the skills that you need. So my hope is that not just the tennis players will enjoy it, the pickleball players might enjoy it as well. Give them an extra sport just to try and to see if they can get more court time. And then one thing I want to make sure and our staff does a better job is this communication with the members and guests of any changes we have through our newsletters, through our e-blast, just be as transparent as possible with our members and guests. All right, so going forward, what is our vision and outlook for the Racket Center? So this slide is basically a quick recap of the Racket Sports Committee's Vision 2026. We believe that with the growth of both tennis and pickleball, it allows us a potential to hold larger tournaments, larger events, to get more people on our courts and participating. Some events we want to look at, which would be hosting possibly the Tennessee Senior Olympics for tennis and pickleball. Right now we have one of the highest percentage of players that participate in that, so why not we put a bid in and see if we can host it. A new event I want to try is the Tennessee Pickleball State Open, and then some Pro-Am events for both tennis and pickleball. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, that's finishing the current Racket Center long-term project that's under consideration by the board, and that's our enclosed pickleball facility, the 8-court facility. And why indoor? Well, that's the trend in the industry right now, is an indoor facility, not really outdoor, but indoor. There's several options. There's one called a pickle mall that some businesses and corporations are buying up vacant mall space and converting it into pickleball facilities, not outdoor facilities, but indoor. Chicken and Pickle, which is a similar concept. And then recently the Atlanta Pickleball Center that opened up, which is a 10 indoor court facility, not outdoor. So even in Atlanta, they're looking at indoor facilities, not outdoor. And why do we want to look at that? Well, that's going to position ourselves, hopefully with the indoor courts, to give us ability to have the racket sports in one centralized location, not having it separated out. Also, just want to point out that this will be a member-driven facility. It won't be for our guests primarily, it will be for our members. We did some data in 2022, and 88% of our revenue at the Racket Center came from our members. So just want to point that out. And this also benefits not just the pickleball players, but the tennis players as well, because it allows Court 4 to be fully dedicated to tennis year-round, unless we have a huge event that we need to stripe it, of course. But it does give us the ability to have year-round programming for both tennis and pickleball. Right now, with us sharing our indoor space, we're pretty limited in the program that we can offer during the winter months, especially the apprentice classes, any kind of special events or tournaments that we could host. It limits us in that regard. And then also with the indoor facilities, it guarantees the play year-round, so it's a better member experience. If you book a court, you know you're going to be able to play regardless of rain, snow, weather, any inclement weather there. And also when we have events with the indoor facility, people know if they sign up, they're going to get to play. They're not going to worry about, oh, if it's going to rain that weekend, I know I'm going to have to be canceled, so I don't want to sign up for that event. I know if it's indoor, we can definitely look at hosting those larger events I mentioned earlier. So last slide we want to look at is staff development and training that Dylan and myself are doing. Dylan's our assistant pro at the Racket Center. First one, we're going to be attending and finishing up our pickleball certification through the USPTA. That's our tennis certification field. Now for a pickleball certification, we're going to finish that up. And then both Dylan and myself will sit through when Dylan's available, I'll definitely do the whole thing, is a virtual business conference in February. And that's just updating us with the trends in the industry, keeping us current, keeping us up to date with what's up and coming through racket sports in general. Okay, so that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
You got off easy. Okay, let's move on into the cars. Bruce, I think you're up first. Bruce? No, there he is.
So I'm presenting a car this morning for design and permitting. The design and permitting phase for a sewer extension along St. George Drive, east of Westchester, down Tawny Oak Circle, all the way around Tawny Oak Circle, and then to include Fox Den Court. McGill Engineering presented a proposal for $58.95, which is well within the budget. This is our next sewer extension project on the list. Once again, the construction phase will be presented after the permitting has been done, and that will be, the actual construction will be performed with in-house staff. Any questions?
Okay, so this will be presented tomorrow. We got a triple header coming up here. Mr. Miser.
So I have 3 capital authorization requests this morning. So we're going to start from the highest dollar value and go down. So the first one will be for the Druid Hills Golf Performance Center. We bid that job. We got 3 proposals. We're suggesting the low bid on that project. And this is to construct the facility as well as to furnish it. So there'll be 2 golf simulators. This will be Adam's new home. So all the golf lessons will be conducted out of this facility. The CAR is for $950,000. The capital budget is $1 million, so we're under budget. So, any questions on that one?
Okay.
Okay. The next one is for bocce courts at Robin Hood Park. This CAR replaces a PR that was approved last year. Last year, we were going to build 4 courts. We ran into extensive bad soil conditions, which would have put the project well over the budget. And so we came back and suggested we cut that down to 2 courts, which is what the Bocce Club currently has, with provisions to add to it in the future if we see a need to. So this project is for $360,000, and the capital budget is $370,000. So we're $10,000 under budget. Questions on that one?
Any questions? Okay.
And the final one is for architectural and engineering services for the new Emergency Services Center. So this is strictly the design phase of the project. It's not construction. It includes doing surveys, topo wood boundary survey, soil borings, so we know what we're getting ourselves into. And so we did bid this. We had 3 bids from architectural firms. The low bidder is AEI out of Cookville. We've used them on projects here before. They performed well for us. And so the total CAR cost is $179,000. The budget was $250,000. So we're well under budget. Questions on that?
If you're doing soil samples.
Nico, can you come up, please? Because we're streaming this, so people need to hear what your question is.
If you're doing soil samples, that means you've selected the site. Is this working again? So where is the planned site for the EMS building?
Ken, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, the preliminary idea, Nico, is it will go on Maintenance Road at Catoosa. And we won't know that for sure until we get the soil samples back. And we have other locations that we could put it if we need to.
Yeah, we really want to get the architect involved and make sure it fits well on that site, and the conditions are such that it's conducive to put it there before we officially announce the site.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anything else? All righty. Kate.
Again, I'm presenting a car for $51,000. That's going to be for the purchase and the licensing, and also basic administration equipment for lights and sirens of a new vehicle to satisfy our fleet rotation. The vehicle that we have secured is under the state contract bidding pricing, and it is for a F-350, which will pose as our new critical response vehicle, and it also will be able to sufficiently manage and haul our critical response and event trailer.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I'd just add that
Yep.
the 51,000 is what's in the budget, just so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. All of those will be presented tomorrow at the board meeting for approval, okay? Major capital projects. Bruce.
Yeah, let me start with Druid. It's got 3 phases to it. The first phase that's underway is the putting course and the driving range, and it's progressing well up until we got 7, 8, 9 inches of snow. I was over there yesterday, and it's still under snow, so today it'll probably go away. But then with 2 or 3 inches of rain, I'm not sure the work's going to start for a while. But so we're a little behind, but I think we'll still have the driving range ready for golf. The putting course is going to take a little while because we're going to sod the driving course, but we're going to seed the putting course. And so that's the process on that. The second one is the Performance Center, which Dave just gave the CAR for. If we get that approved tomorrow, once we get started, again, depending on weather, the contractor's telling us 220 days is from start to finish. Now, all that depends on weather and everything else, but we'll get that underway as soon as we can. And then the third piece is, which everybody likes to hear about, is the clubhouse and the surrounding site work. If you remember last month, we approved a CAR for architectural firm. It's Vic Jones and Associates out of Dallas. Vic has done over 400 clubhouses, brings a wealth of knowledge on how to design clubhouses. So he was here January 11th and 12th, and he met with the golf committee, the Druid Food and Beverage Committee, and the Druid Steering Committee. And they gave him buku input, and especially the F&B committee, from all the surveys and input we received from the members about what the members want. And so he's back in Dallas putting those things on paper as to what he thinks he heard. And Dave and I expect to get a drawing next week of what, on paper, of what he thinks he heard, putting it on a piece of paper. So when we get that, we'll meet again with those three committees and continue to refine that. Our goal is to have a town hall by the end of March, early April at the latest, to present renderings, a floor plan and renderings of what the clubhouse would look like, and to then get feedback from the community itself. So that's the plan on Druid. Any questions about Druid? Okay, the bocce courts, you heard Dave, we'll get that approved tomorrow. Again, pending weather, we'll get that started and build those 2 courts and get our club back active again once we get those courts done. And then St. George Marina, again, weather is hindering us. I was down there yesterday and there was no work going on because of weather, but they do have it all torn out. They redid the electrics, the sheetrock I could see was up, and so it's progressing. We're gonna sit down with the contractor and take a look. Because of all the weather delays, we really would like to be ready to open March 1st or 4th, I think it is, a Monday. We could be, Russ, we could be in trouble opening in March, and we'll have to take a look with the contractor and see where we are. We're going to push them to make up that time that we've lost, but we've lost at least a week and a half of time. So we'll see where we get to with that. But it's progressing, and we'll be done, if not 1st of March, certainly by the middle of March anyway. So Russ, we'll keep you tuned in about that. Any questions about any of that? Okay, thanks.
Ken?
Okay. As Dave mentioned when he presented the CAR, we did have 3 architectural firms that responded to the request for proposal. The committee met and looked through the recommendations and has recommended AEI out of Cookeville, and as Dave mentioned, we've worked with AEI on a number of projects, and they are going to go ahead and start their work. We will approve that the CAR tomorrow. We would expect that it will take at least a couple of months for us to get the proposed layout of the building back. We've given the architectural firm a preliminary sketch of the building that was done by the Major Capital Projects Committee, so that should help them with the understanding the idea and purposes behind the requirements that were documented. And then, of course, once we've had the results come back from the architectural firm, we will have an idea of what the cost of the building will be. And as I mentioned, after we get the soil borings back, we'll know if the preliminary location is a good location for the complex. And so we'll know that by the time we get the drawings back from the architect.
Okay. Any questions?
Ken, now that we've kind of narrowed that down to a site potentially, is there a way that this committee could kind of go about and say, okay, if the station is located here, here's how the Glade is kind of covered with the emergency services. I don't know, I can see it in my mind, but I can't necessarily know how you, explain to you how you would do it, but for example, and I'll give it my spin, I live on the south side. So we are talking about, I think, is quite a ways further than where this one, the old one, was located to me.
No, Tom,
No,
no,
I
let's
don't-
not speculate, okay?
Okay.
You know where the current building is on Peavine?
Yes.
Okay? Come down a good block, okay, and up one block, and you're at the new station.
Okay.
So there's not an extensive delay and all that, okay? And you know that there is a south side station and a north side station, okay? And so depending on what the department does in terms of deployment, that determines how soon an engine would get to you or how soon an ambulance would get to you.
Perfect. Thanks. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
And all of that is all part of the ISO rating, which is examined every year to look at what is the rating that the community gets for your insurance purposes. And so they have all of their specs on how far the engine can be, how long the response time is, that sort of thing. So really, this move will not impact the response time or the ISO ratings at all.
Okay? Member comments? Okay. I was going to be disappointed if we didn't get somebody up here.
Just one for tomorrow. As you're approving the requests, and specifically the Performance Center, the bocce courts, and the Emergency Center, perhaps, Bruce, you could show us how those are being funded. And what I'm getting at is where the money is coming from the various pie of the balance sheet, if you will. That's number one. And I'm assuming it's all cash. That in other words, we're not financing any of this. And so just a little bit of discussion from the board's perspective in terms of why we are using cash versus financing it. And hold off, I know you'll come back right away and say interest rates, and I get that piece of it. But I'm also looking at it from the aspect of, I've called it before and I've said it to the board before, I call it the church theory. I'm buying a bocce court today and someone's using it in the future, okay, without really paying for it. And I say today because I've funded, and other members too, that money through our dues and so forth, okay? Versus if it was a financed situation, it would be more on a pay-as-you-go situation, if you understand my perspective. It's just mine. I'd like to know the board's point of view on that, though. Greg, you're looking at me confused, so did I confuse everybody?
No, I'm not confused. I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? Any other member comments? Any board comments? Not, I got a few. Wanted to take you through a couple of things where we are.
I did give an answer for Bruce's question.
Okay, we'll come back to it then in a second.
Okay.
Wildwood Stables, we've sent out, the board will be talking about this afternoon, the charter for that committee. As many of you should know, we sent out an e-blast that requesting people to apply for that committee. Those applications are open till February 2nd. After that, we'll go through a selection process, and that's still to be defined. We'll be talking about that this afternoon. Again, I want to be real clear about this. That committee's charge is what happens after January 1st, 2025. Our lease is there, and we have no intentions of breaking the lease or getting out of the lease or anything else with that lease. Goes till December 31st of 2024. So everything we're talking about is after that lease expires. All right, just want to be clear about that. So if you know of people that are interested, please have them go to the admin building and get an application. We are requesting that they document on the application their experience with the horses and facilities like we have. So we're trying to get people on the committee that understands that a lot better than me. So that's number one. This started back before the Christmas holidays, and I was talking with Russ a little bit, and I said, Russ, I would like a new set of eyes on looking at the covenants and restrictions and bylaws. Things that, you know, we maybe need to bring up to date. Remember, most of these things have not been looked at since 1997, although some of them have been changed, and we need to get the wording into the little booklet we have about what those changes are. So Russ took a pass, and I took a pass, and we have a document that's about, what, 6, 8 pages long of things that we think need to be looked at. Not all of them are going to be changed or need to be changed, but they need to be reviewed. The next step will be that hopefully at the appeals meeting in February, that we'll bring that list to the board and let all the board members look at what we have kind of come up with as a straw person of what we would look at in terms of changing. Then we'll we'll have a conversation with the community about that so that we have you involved in terms of looking at things we think are important. What I can tell you is they're not going to see big changes in like membership of board members or those kinds of things, or voting rights or that type of thing. There's good reasons why people put that in to the covenants and restrictions the way they did back in 1997. And this review is not to really change that. What this review is mainly about is bringing things up to date. So there's things that's going to be happening there. It's going to be a long process. It's not going to happen in a month or two. Matter of fact, my goal is I'd be real pleased if we had it done by year end, and I'm not sure we can meet that. Because when we're talking about changing documents like this, these are not small ticket items, and people need to be careful and considerate about what we're talking about here. So that's another thing going on. The next one is we have entered into an agreement with PCA for the interim finance director, Jonathan Goodman. Some of you may know that name. He used to be the finance director here. Has started this past Monday, and already on the phone calls that we've had with him, he's been a wealth of information and a lot of help in helping us look at some things like the reserve study, the process for going through that, how we account for some things. So he's been a real help, and I fully believe he'll be here for the next board meeting, so that we're scheduling that. He'll be on site next week to start working directly with our finance department and with our treasurer. So a lot to do there, and there's a lot of things we're going to ask him to look at and advise us on going forward. Tomorrow, we'll also be talking about we'll probably approve, my hope is we'll approve, allowing GSI, who's doing our search for the general manager, to be the company that's going to do the search for our director of finance. In initial discussions with them, they've got a real good handle. GSI is a very strong executive search firm. I know the gentleman, Scott McNett, who is the principal doing the GM search, is also the principal that would be doing this search, and he sent me a list of almost 30 clubs and communities that they're looking for finance directors for right now. So this is nothing new to them. They know a lot of candidates. They should be very helpful. And I'm going to talk about the GM search in a minute. But initial estimates, these are initial estimates, are like a 3 to 4 month time frame and before we could probably get someone in here. So that kind of tells you how long the interim will be here for the director of finance, and kind of tells you in a very general planning way about where we think the search may take us. Nothing has started with that search because we don't start things till we have a signed contract. We don't have a signed contract till it's approved. So they're waiting in the wings, but we aren't started that yet. As far as the GM or the general manager's update, we have received 7 resumes from GSI to consider. I would put them in the bulk of pretty strong candidates. The board will be meeting tomorrow or Friday afternoon and going through those resumes with the goal of selecting a subset of those that we'll do Zoom calls with initially, Zoom call interviews, and then the next step after that will be bringing those people on. So the process there, quite honestly, I thought it would take longer. It's actually moved a lot quicker. It's almost exactly the time frame that Scott McNeck told us from GSI when we started this. So that's a good thing. So we're looking still that depending, there's some other things in there that some of these people, well, all these people are gainfully employed now, and that some of them by contract have certain dates that they have to give notice for in terms before they can join another place. So we'll have to work through a lot of that. There's still a lot of work to do, but at least anyway, we have resumes that we're looking at right now, and they're well-qualified candidates. The final thing I wanted to talk about, and actually I was talking with Russell a little bit about this, and my initial reaction was I was not going to talk about it, but after reflecting the last couple of days, I'm going to talk about it anyway. It's about civility. Over the last couple days, week and a half, and I don't know if it's because everyone was snowed in for so long and they got a little antsy or what the deal was, but there have been some communications to staff members, and some of them very public, that just are very inappropriate. Threats made to staff members, and I want to tell you that this board will take that seriously. To the extent that if the threat really feels real, in one of those we did, we actually had the police contact the individual to be sure that we weren't going to have an issue. This is not the way this community is supposed to work. You know, we're called a community, not an association or a corporation or anything like that. And we see it all over the place. I mean, I'm not gonna be so nice to say that we don't get letters as board members and get comments as board members that sometimes are very inappropriate. Now, every member, from a board's perspective and from an employee's perspective, deserves respect. Let's start there. But that also is a two-way street. And, you know, our society is getting to the point now where we can't have even a civil conversation amongst ourselves as neighbors or friends, sometimes even family members. And I don't hope that the community will not reflect that. I mean, Sam, we see it all the time. You know, the biggest people that get inspectors out are one neighbor calling about another neighbor. And most of those could be solved if the two neighbors just talk to one another. But oh no, we go through the process and then all of a sudden we get two neighbors that don't like each other because, well, gee, Sam's people had to make a decision or make a recommendation to the board about what we're going to do. We really need to give some thought about how we approach each other. I mean, seriously. It's just mind-boggling to me that it gets to the point where we have to have a police officer talk to a community member about a threat that they made to an employee. It's just inappropriate. And the reason why I decided to do it in this form is because all of us can participate in helping tone down the rhetoric. You know, when you see your neighbors or your friends or anyone like that doing that, we have a responsibility to say, you know, stop. And I hope that you'll take it in the spirit it's given. This is not a lecture. I know I'm going to be much more attentive to the way I interact with people. I try to be respectful. And I hope, if I'm ever not, anyone in this community has the right to call me out on it. Okay? So I'm not saying that, you know, I'm perfect either, but all of us can contribute to this and make this the community that we want it to be, as opposed to the society that maybe we're just trying to live in. Okay? So thank you. Is there anything else? Oh, Bruce.
Yes. I did get an answer on the question that Bruce raised, and thank you. Good catch. I appreciate that. It was the golf cart lease that we spoke of in the report were misplaced in the report. They are supposed to be 2024 is the right answer. Okay. And it was just misallocated. Clerical error. And fortunately, it didn't affect anything because we had already talked about it and it was allocated properly elsewhere. But in the report, it was misallocated.
So it'll
it
show
is
up, it'll
2024.
show up in Jeff's 2024 equipment
Correct.
purchases.
Correct.
Great, thanks,
Yeah.
Bruce.
Good catch, thank you. Missed that. So,
Okay,
we're good.
all right. Any other member, or any other board member comments? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Scared me, I thought we were gonna stay here all day. We might. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank all of you for coming.